Hundreds of Welsh workers who lost their jobs begin legal action. Former employees of this energy company are angry at the way they were treated. Empty bars during the match and 15,000 unsold seats to watch a record defeat. The crisis in Welsh rugby deepens.
To see you down, it broke my heart.
Do you remember the Empress? It's 30 years since one of Wales' worst environmental disasters.
And if you're in the market for some bright new clothes and you want to bag a bargain, then join me in this new African charity stall in Wrexham and I'll be showing you around.
Hello, good evening. Hundreds of former workers at a Welsh energy company are taking legal action over the way they were made redundant. Nearly 300 people lost their jobs when Swansea-based Consumer Energy Solutions closed down last month. It's not only left families facing financial uncertainty, but has also prompted calls for an investigation into the firm's use of public money through a UK government grant. S4C's Bidad Bedwar reporter Ness Jenkins has more.
How does it feel to be back here, Jack?
Upsetting, very disheartening on, the way things have panned out.
Jack Cromwell only started at Consumer Energy Solutions in September as a site manager coordinator. 5 months later, the company went into administration with 300 jobs lost.
Did you have any idea when you came to this company that things would change so quickly?
Not at all. When I arrived at the company, everything was all guns blazing. There was so much work going through the system. Shortly after that, we were potentially looking at redundancies.
The company used the UK government's Eco4 scheme to offer free energy efficiency upgrades to homes. But with the grant coming to an end in 2026, Consumer Energy Solutions said it was no longer viable to continue and launched a 45-day consultation in December to discuss the future of the business. But 28 days later, on the 9th of January, a final decision was made.
A lot of dreams were broken. There was a lot of tears shed on that day as well. It's had a massive impact on me. I've got bills to pay, I've got rent to pay.
Now, Jack is one of over 220 employees who are challenging the way that decision was made.
You're now part of this group of former employees that are taking CS on, taking legal action against them.
Yeah.
On what basis?
We believe they've broken the law in terms of the way the consultation period was conducted and also them pulling out of the consultation period early. A lot of us are angry because we feel as if, our sort of concerns haven't been taken into account by the employers. I feel, personally, like the wool has been pulled over our eyes. I was sold the dream coming here.
This was the company that made over £35 million in profit, according to the most recently published accounts in 2024. And for one politician, there are serious questions about the way such companies operated under the Eco4 scheme.
Of course, I have every sympathy for people who lost their jobs at very short notice. This is an appalling situation. I think we need a national audit investigation into the way these companies conducted themselves and whether we have a scandal on the use of public money here.
The administrators in charge of CES say they are working with the redundancy payment services and other organisations to support employees. They say that services and resources have been available to them free of charge. According to the UK government's Department for Net Zero and Energy Security, they've inherited a flawed system and are urgently working with the relevant authorities to support those affected. But for Jack, who's applied for 40 jobs and counting since losing his last, it's left a sour taste.
Since things have ended very badly, we've been left with no job, no pay, no sort of idea on how any of us are going to support ourselves in the future. This shouldn't be happening.
Empty offices and for some, empty promises. But the frustrations and questions are growing.
And Ness joins me now in the studio. A really sad situation. And it's not just employees who are unhappy, its customers too.
Yes, it's not the first time that I've sat here, John, discussing consumer energy solutions. Last year, we did an investigation and spoke to over 40 unhappy customers who'd had work done by CES. This year, we've spoken to many more, dozens more, many left with serious problems and faulty work. One family in Gwynedd, they've been without hot water or heating since the 2nd of January this year. And it's worth remembering that these customers are often vulnerable, they're elderly, and they got this grant for free through the Eco4 scheme. That was the point of this grant, to try and tackle fuel poverty. Last year, CS told us that on the rare occasions when things go wrong, that they try and make it right as soon as possible. But now, of course, they've closed. So where do people go from here? The administrators, KR8 Advisory, said on behalf of CS that it's Trustmark who will now review all the customer claims, and they urge people to contact Trustmark directly. It's been a long winter, but for many it's even longer, with unfinished work and unanswered questions from CES.
OK, Ness Jenkins, thanks very much indeed. And you can see more on this story in tonight's Bidar Bedwar on S4C at 8 p.m. and the programme has English subtitles. A driver has pleaded guilty to killing a dog walker in Carmarthenshire. Daniel Wyke, who's 28, admitted causing the death of father of two Aaron Jones in the village of Llanpimsaint. Dean Thomas Welch has the details from Swansea Court now. Dean, what more can you tell us?
Yes, John. Well, 38-year-old father of two, Aaron Jones, was out walking his dog on the evening of the 23rd of December 2024 when he was hit and killed by a vehicle driven by Daniel Wyke. Mr. Jones's body was discovered in a churchyard after a passerby found his dog. Mr. Jones was pronounced dead at the scene. Well, today the court heard there was extensive damage to the windscreen of Mr. Wyke's vehicle. The 28-year-old from Carmarthen pleaded guilty to a count of causing death by dangerous driving. He pleaded not guilty to a second count of dangerous driving, which related to after he had killed Mr. Jones. Well, Judge Paul Thomas, KC, told Wyke he was banned from driving and he bailed him to reappear for sentencing at this court on the 30th of March.
OK, Dean Thomas Welch at Swansea Crown Court. Thank you very much indeed. A 51-year-old man has been arrested in Newport Talbot on suspicion of attempting to make an explosive with intent to endanger life or property. Emergency services were called to an address in Commercial Street in Abergwynfi last night to reports of significant number of illegal weapons being discovered. Nearby homes were evacuated as a precaution and an increased police presence will remain in the area as investigations continue. The crisis in Welsh rugby continues with yesterday's record defeat by the French. Wales were hammered 54-12 in front of a record low crowd for a Six Nations game in Cardiff, with 15,000 seats left empty at the Principality Stadium. Well, our sports reporter Matt Southcombe is live for us there tonight. Matt, well, just another bad day at the office for WRU bosses.
Well, John, it says something now that when you turn up to these games, you're wondering, fearing which records are going to fall next. Yesterday there were two more, and we'll start with that attendance. Incidentally, for this fixture 2 years ago, also on a Sunday, 71,000 tickets were sold. So that tells you how much this has dropped off. Yesterday, it was difficult to ignore all of those empty seats, and it will be hitting the Welsh Rugby Union in the pocket as well. But they're not the only ones who are affected by this. The downturn has had a significant impact on businesses here in the city centre, as Hannah Thomas reports.
Match day may be over, but the French were still in fine voice in Cardiff today. In fact, you could be forgiven for thinking you were in Paris instead, because it looked more like the city of love than the Welsh capital, and it's the French that have kept the pubs pulling pints.
15,000 unsold tickets, I think it was in the end. Yeah, without the travelling French fans, you definitely noticed a drop off in trade. You definitely would have expected a bit more. It's always nice to have the home support as well. It always brings a bit more of a different atmosphere when it's the home fans celebrating wins compared to the away fans.
At the Welsh gift shop around the corner, Nee Khan says her business has been propped up by the travelling support too. The French rather than the Welsh snapping up the Dragons.
We had more French people than the Welsh one this time, and it's obvious, you know, how the match went. So after match as well, we had more French customers rather than the Welsh ones.
This is what some Cardiff pubs looked like during the game. Landlords say they hope business will pick up for Wales's 3 remaining Six Nations fixtures, because yesterday there was a sea of blue instead of a sea of red on the streets around the stadium. 24 hours after the match here, and the Welsh flags are still flying high on St Mary Street. And the French are still celebrating their win and enjoying what Cardiff has to offer, even if the Welsh fans didn't enjoy the game. The French outsang the home fans in their own Welsh house. The Fraisier family have still been singing today, but they have sympathy for Welsh rugby fans.
A lot of French supporters in the stadium, so for us that's really nice, but I think for the Welsh fan that could be a little bit annoying, you know. And what was also sad is that the stadium was not full.
A few years ago, it was one of the greatest rugby teams in the world, like Ireland, like us. And to see you down, it broke my heart.
Yesterday was certainly one for the history books, but as soon as the French leave town, local businesses will be praying that the Welsh fans come back, because in 5 days' time, we play Scotland in Cardiff. Hannah Thomas, ITV News.
There's lots to come on the programme, including the weather with Ruth, and Joanne's doing a bit of late night shopping, and all for a good cause. Joanne.
Yes, I wasn't expecting this. The ladies of this brand new African market stall insisted on getting me dressed up. Find out what else they sell shortly.
It's exactly 30 years since one of the biggest environmental disasters played out on the Pembrokeshire coast. A giant oil tanker carrying hundreds of thousands of gallons of crude oil ran aground at the entrance to Milford Haven. The images of oil-covered seabirds and tar-smothered shorelines were beamed right around the world, sparking fears of a catastrophe for wildlife and tourism. The impact was huge and is still a vivid memory for those who witnessed it. Our reporter Lewis Rhys-Jones has been to meet some of them.
It's a disaster many will never forget. 30 years ago, the Sea Empress silted to one side after running aground off the coast of Milford Haven. It unleashed one of the worst environmental incidents our country has ever faced.
Government inquiry begins into what caused the West Wales tanker disaster.
Maria has dedicated her life to rescuing birds in Pembrokeshire and recalls the devastation caused by the oil spill.
The smell of the oil, it was a terrible, terrible smell. But of course, the main thing was the devastation that it caused to the birds. Because to see them dead, dying, struggling in oil, it was not a pretty sight.
Maria washed more than 500 birds over the course of 6 weeks.
Everybody was jointly and severally responsible for the Sea Empress, because we want cheaper fuel, the companies want to make more profit. But at the end of the day, it was the birds that suffered. But then I think everybody felt a sense of guilt.
Here we are at West Angle Bay, one of the nearest beaches close to where the Sea Empress would have ran aground out in the Milford Haven waterway. It would have been carrying over 130,000 tonnes of crude oil at the time, over 70,000 of which spilt into the sea. It's still considered one of Britain's worst environmental disasters. Thousands were involved in the clean-up operation, including John, who still works as an environmental advisor.
Most of the oil went round to Tenby, Amroth, that way, and then a couple of days later it came back again. The tide turned and the wind turned, and it pushed it back up onto the north side of the haven. And a lot of those beaches are inaccessible, and you had to chain. So it was a group of, there was like 100 people in a chain, chaining bags of oily material off the beach. They had to build scaffold to get down to some of these coves to get it off.
Local tourism was also impacted in the months to follow, but just like the wildlife did, Pembrokeshire bounced back.
Nature did recover, and I guess that's the positive story, as did the tourism economy, but not through, a lack of graft. There was a lot of hard work, a lot of community spirit, a lot of time, and it's easy to forget that. I think that nature is still very fragile, so even though we did recover, it needs looking after today as it did then, and that's our role as a National Park Authority.
A later investigation led to the Milford Haven Port Authority being fined £4 million. It also led to reforms in how the UK prepares and responds to maritime incidents. A lot might have changed in 30 years, but it's clear the Sea Empress disaster continues to live as vividly in people's minds. Lewis Rhys-Jones, ITV News.
I remember it all too well. Time for a recap of our top story now. Hundreds of former workers at a Welsh energy company are taking legal action over the way they were made redundant. Nearly 300 people lost their jobs last month when Swansea-based Consumer Energy Solutions closed down. It's prompted calls for an investigation into the firm's use of public money through a UK government grant system. The administrators in charge say they're working with the redundancy payment services to support employees. And still to come on the ITV Evening News.
Calling time on screen time. The government says it will take action to keep children safe online. The social media ban for under-16s isn't ruled out, and the Prime Minister says the status quo can't continue.
Definitely been the best days of my life so far, but I don't think I'll be allowed to say that for very much longer. So I'm making the most of it until my wedding day.
Team GB's Winter Olympic heroes tell us how it felt to bring home the gold. And it's the problem that just won't go away. Potholes are on the rise, and so are breakdowns. So do join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Now, a new venture has set up stall in Wrexham, the town's first African charity stall selling artefacts and unique gifts to help raise funds. Well, Joanne Gallagher is live for us tonight. So, Joanne, they're having a busy day at the market, and you've got all dressed up as well.
They certainly are having a busy day. Just looking to see if I can brag myself a bargain. I've never looked so glamorous on Wales at 6. I'd only been here for 5 minutes and the ladies were swarming round me, putting me in national costume. I had no say on it, but I've got to say, I think I rock it, Ruth. What do you think?
You look fabulous. Outstanding.
Now, we're here because you've opened Inside Africa, this brand new stall inside T-Pawb in Wrexham. What's it all about?
We are Jewins Women to Women, a domestic violence charity and also social enterprise. We raise money through selling African art and craft and clothing to pay for treatment for women of ethnic minority who are victims of domestic abuse. We also do cultural training to local authorities and police to raise money for the women who are victims of domestic abuse.
And you sell some fantastic things here. Just tell me what people can grab here.
We have talking drums. We have the fabrics that is quite popular. We have the blingy dress. You can see how we've transformed Joanna. I can barely recognize her. She looks fabulous. We have a lot of clothes for men, women, prom dresses. We have a lot of gifts. We have a lot of jewelry and everything and anything. We have books.
And what's really interesting, you were saying to me that actually it's not a lot of members of the African community that come here and buy these, is it?
No. I think this is all about African education, really, and what we've been doing. So most of our customers are community
Oh,
Wales
fantastic. Well, you really have got some beautiful things. I've got my eye on a few things myself. But there is a serious message, isn't there? You're raising money for women who are victims of domestic violence.
So we struggle for funding all the time. We've got a GoFundMe page at the moment that we've just launched today. And we're doing this training as well to police and local authority on the role of faith and culture and selling all this. And we're hoping to have shops in Bangor, Carnarvon and all around.
Yes, you want to expand across North Wales. And you've got lots of support here today, haven't you? People have come from Nottingham and Oxfordshire. It's fantastic. Yeah. Now, one of the things you told me about was this talking drum, which really piqued my interest. Now, the idea is that tells a name or says something. Yes. So can you do ITV Wales?
ITV Wales. ITV Wales. ITV Wales.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Back to you in the studio.
Oh, I can feel a new ad campaign coming on there, Joanne. Thanks very much indeed. Time for a little bit of sports news. And in football, Wrexham will soon find out their opponents in the 5th round of the FA Cup. Phil Parkinson's men made it into the final 16 for the first time in 29 years after a 1-0 victory over Ipswich on Friday. The draw, held in about 15 minutes' time, could see Wrexham take on the likes of Premier League giants Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea or even Liverpool. Well, time for a look at the weather now, and Ruth is in the Principality Stadium tonight. Ruth will avoid talking about the weekend score and focus on the next game on Saturday against Scotland. Will it be Ruth or not?
Well, John, welcome to the Principality Stadium. As you said, yes, we've been talking about what happened here over the weekend throughout the programme, but if you just listen, probably won't hear anything. It's the calm after the proverbial weekend. 60,000 voices were in here screaming and shouting. Now things are quiet, and it's quite eerie. It's quite beautiful, actually. The pitch is actually recovering. The roof is open, which allows the pitch to get a little bit of air. There are heat lamps on it 16 hours a day, and the sprinklers should be on any time soon. Speaking of sprinklers, probably no need for these, actually, because Wales has had an awful lot of wet weather recently, and there is more to come. Here are the details.
Midday Mayan temples, followed by sunny afternoons on the sand. TUI sponsors ITV Cymru Wales weather.
Well, I found a scoreboard that we're not actually bottom of. Wales is limping in second place on the wettest places in the UK percentage of winter rainfall we've had so far. 102%. Felt like actually we've had an awful lot more of that, doesn't it? But speaking of rainfall, we've had an awful lot of that out there today. As we head through this evening and into the overnight stretch, the rainfall should start to fizzle out, but we could see a few wintry flurries over the Banner Brycheiniog. Temperatures under clear skies, though, are going to drop. It is cold here at the Principality Stadium under the open roof, and it's going to be echoed across much of the country. We could dip below freezing in more sheltered rural spots, so we could well see some icy stretches on particularly untreated roads where we've had showers out there today, and widespread frost developing by the early hours of tomorrow morning too. So a cold, frosty, possibly icy start to your Tuesday, but actually a really rather beautiful start to the day. There will be blue sky, again, catch it if you can. The sunshine will start to turn a little bit hazy into the afternoon with some high level clouds starting to bubble up from the southwest first, but it should be a generally dry day for the most part. Again, temperatures topping out at around 7 or 8 degrees. If you're heading out and about tomorrow night, there is a frontal system just waiting in the wings. Now it will edge its way in our direction, possibly putting into the far southwest, but I think on the whole a dry night. But there is another frontal system, and that will show its hand by the time we wake to Wednesday. Now at the moment we're looking at an awful lot of rainfall on that frontal system, but we've still got this cold feed of air, and that means we could well see several centimetres of snow falling and settling over the Banner Brycheiniog, the hills and mountains likely to be affected.
TUI sponsors ITV Cymru Wales weather.
So yes, all the happenings on the pitch feel like a world away. It is calm and it is quiet here at the moment, but I have to say, John, it's also bitterly cold as well. Those temperatures dropping overnight tonight.
Well, let's hope they're cheering some Welsh tries come Saturday. Ruth, thanks very much indeed. That's all for now. I'll be back, though, with the late update. That's after the ITV News at 10. But for now, from all of us on the programme, thanks for watching. See you soon.